perfect square trinomial is an expression whose first and last terms are perfect squares. The first term in this case, x to the second power, if you square root it, just becomes x, whereas this would become 3. So these are both perfect squares. And the other defining characteristic about these expressions is that the middle term here is the perfect square of the first and last term, okay? And when those are multiplied together, you double them. So let's just look at it. We know that this is going to be x, and this is becomes 3. So if you were to multiply these together, 3x, and then double them times 2, that would equal 6x. That's what it is. It is the perfect square of the last term multiplied by the perfect square of the first term, and then you double that. You times it by 2. One of the things you're going to have to do is complete one of these perfect squares or perfect trinomials. You're going to have to figure out the last term here. So let's go ahead and figure out. We know that this is going to be, x is going to be the perfect square of the first one. Now this other one over here is a little bit different. Now that you know that this is a perfect square, you need to figure out the last term here. And remember, it is the product of both, okay, both the first and last terms, perfect squares, and you double them. So we know this term in here has a 2 in it. You've doubled it. So let's take that 2 back out, okay? So this would become 4 times 2. This is the 2 you want to take out. So we're just going to get rid of that, because that came when you were doubling it. So now we know this. This is the perfect square of this term over here. And as you saw, I got rid of the x as well, because the x belonged to this term over here. So this is going to be the perfect square of the term over here. If that's a perfect square, then you know this term over here must be this number squared. It should be 16. In fact, it is 16. And I believe this should have been here, positive sign right there. That makes sense. You'd have positive 8. So when figuring this out, remember the basic mechanics of the perfect trinomial, perfect square trinomial. You have perfect squares on the first and last terms, and then the middle term here is the product of those squares doubled. And if you figure that out, you can complete any perfect square trinomial. Just remember to, when you have the middle term here, take out the factor that belongs to the first one, and then take out the 2 that you doubled the entire term. And whatever you're left with is the perfect square of this term over here.